Saint Martha has a kinda unique reputation. Let's be real, she doesn't exactly steal the spotlight, so if you're new to the game, you probably don't know who she is. But despite not being super flashy, her presence still hits hard. So let's talk about Martha and how she claimed her throne as one of the most popular heroic spirits, despite not really being part of the main story. Martha is a saint who lived during the 1st century when Jesus was still around. In Chaldea, she rolls in as a rider. Her ride of choice is a dragon named Tarask. Though honestly, riding is kinda a stretch. She treats Tarask more like a weapon. She yeets him at enemies, smacks people with him, and does all kinds of wild stuff. To someone who doesn't know her that well, Martha comes off as the perfect saint. She's beautiful, pure, kind, and gives off that big sister energy, probably thanks to her actual younger sister, Mary. She's dependable, with an unshakable spirit. If Martha says, "I'm fine," everyone just believes it. No doubts, no second guesses. But if you're in her inner circle, oh boy, you know a whole different side of her. When she's annoyed, angry, or just plain done with someone, her words get sharp, her glare cuts deep, and the vibe around her turns intense. This fiery side of Martha is a glimpse of who she was back when she was just a regular town girl hanging out with her siblings before she became a saint. And yeah, well, it's not the textbook image of sainthood, but that's what makes her real. Her charm, her unbreakable spirit, her love for humanity. Those are all core to who she is, no matter what vibe she's giving off. For us, and for them too, whether her filter is on or off just depends on the situation. Either way, she's still 100% saintly, just with a bit of an anger management twist. So if you remember, Martha only showed up in the main story during Orleans. That was also her debut in the game. Since Orleans revolves around John's story after her execution, having Martha there kinda made sense, right? They're both saints after all. So maybe Martha had a big role in this singularity? Well, nope. Martha was summoned by John Alter as one of the 7 Berserk attribute servants, specifically a Berserk rider. But the thing is, she was just another brainwashed antagonist meant to be disposed of easily. And yeah, our crew defeated her pretty quickly early on. Now normally, this kind of debut is a red flag for a character's future because first impressions matter. If someone seems important lore-wise, but ends up being so easily tossed aside by the story, it's not a good look. Take Fergus, for example. After Agartha, his reputation tanked. Even though he appeared in other main chapters, people couldn't get past how annoying he was in Agartha. And honestly, that chapter had one of the weakest storylines in the game. Fergus wasn't even his adult version there. He was in his teenage form, but the damage to his rep was already done. Martha went through something similar early on in FGO during her debut. The difference is probably Martha wasn't annoying, and in Fergus's case, that wasn't his debut. But the writing in Orleans wasn't exactly strong either, so her introduction didn't leave much of an impact. Well, I guess that wasn't a very proper comparison, but you guys know what I meant. It's about the impression of a character. But even though Martha got a rough start in the early days of the game, she managed to bounce back. What's unique about her is that while she only had a brief role in the main story during Orleans, she slowly started popping up in various events as a cameo. These small appearances in events actually won people over. Why? Because those moments gave us a closer look at the sides of Martha that most players didn't know about. In general, these events portrayed her as the tired big sis who genuinely cares about those around her, or somewhat care. Through little problems and day-to-day moments, we got a glimpse of her everyday life. And honestly, that's where she really started to shine. Despite her seemingly dull role in the main story, Martha has this surprisingly relatable side that's made people grow fond of her. Plus, thanks to smaller events like the dumpling event, she built a unique reputation. People started speculating that back in the day she fought Tarask with her bare fists. Not long after, paired with her "don't make me mad or I'll go full thug mode" attitude, memes and fan art of a violent Martha exploded everywhere. This became a huge boost to her popularity. Why? Because the idea of a saint, known for being kind and gentle, flipping 180 degrees into a fist-throwing problem solver over small, relatable annoyances, is just hilarious. Especially when you throw in her interactions with chaotic characters like Canis or patient ones like Jeanne Georgios or Pope Johanna. It just adds to the fun. You know what makes Martha's role as the tired big sis who snaps even better? Her voice actor. Who doesn't love Saori Hayami's soft and soothing voice? She's known for voicing characters with gentle personalities, but a hidden streak of savagery. It's a perfect match for Martha and her harsh but somewhat loving nature. You see, even though we haven't seen a full animated showcase of Martha's abilities in something like a TV series or movie, fans can imagine what she's like in Chaldea based on her VA's other roles. Think of the kindness of Miyuki Shiba, the caring nature of Shinobu Kocho, or when she's a bit mad and nagging everyone around her, picture Yukinoshita Yukino being sassy. And if we're talking about her mix of soft-heartedness and badassery, look no further than your Forger, an elegant adult who somehow always ends up in intense fight scenes. Man, fans are really living their best lives with all this. With her exploding popularity, she eventually got noticed by the developers. Thankfully, the devs handling Martha leaned into her unique lore, memes, and her portrayal as a sometimes rough village girl for her upcoming alternate version. And that's how we got her summer version. This time she wasn't a rider but a ruler, rocking some casual summer clothes. And honestly, after Summer Martha dropped, everything changed. She became a huge hit with fans. If you search for Martha online, a lot of the results are about her summer version. Well, maybe not most, but definitely a good chunk, especially on certain websites. I'm not naming them though. Go do your own research. I mean, it makes sense. Summer Martha perfectly brings to life the fans' imagination, along with the story's implication that without her staff, her fighting style is basically boxing with her fists. Plus, summertime always adds some summer magic, and in her case, it makes her a little more casual and friendly than usual. It's super refreshing. Even though she admits to feeling a bit uncomfortable without her staff, you can totally feel the summer vibes as Martha softens up to us. She even treats us like her little sibling at times. It didn't stop there, by the way. Her boxer image carried over into Christmas. In the fourth Christmas event, Holy Samba Night, Martha actually played a pretty big role. You could even call her the deuteragonist of the event. In that event, technically she was still a rider, but since it was a tournament setting and she was undercover at some parts, she swapped her usual outfit for boxing gear, or maybe her casual summer clothes, depending on how you see it. Either way, her involvement in the Samba Night event was super fun. It felt like the perfect fit for her lore beyond just being a saint. Seeing her in this role as a trainer was such a nice touch. We even got a hilarious moment where Martha used Tarrasque as her punching bag during training with Bradamanti, so people can actually imply that this is how she tamed Tarrasque back then. Poor boy. See? Martha is proof that even older servants who barely show up in the main story can make a comeback if their quirks are unique enough. Recently, during Christmas 7, she even became the welfare servant for the event, taking on the role of Santa and getting plenty of spotlight throughout. Now, if you've noticed, I haven't mentioned her appearance much. Normally, I'd gush about how beautiful or unique a character's design is, but with Martha, I've said nothing about it. Don't get me wrong though, I do like her design, especially her rider look. But as for her summer and Santa versions, not really my thing. Honestly, I feel like those designs are just too plain. But enough of that. What I really want to highlight here is her development. Martha's got a pretty standard Year 1 style design, and yet, because of her unique lore, quirky personality, and interesting interactions, she's managed to stay relevant and popular even now. That's rare for a Year 1 servant, I mean, there is even a Saberface from the early days that has been completely forgotten, and she has designs I'd say are 100 times more eye-catching than Martha's. In the end, what I'm trying to say is, developers can revive older characters. It's just a matter of whether they're willing to take the bold step to revamp those characters and make them interesting again, or let them fade into obscurity, buried under the wave of newer servants. Subscribe, guys.